but will retain control over the Diego Garcia base for at least 99 years at an average annual cost of £101 million. In other news, today a woman has died after a small boat incident in the English Channel. A mayday call was issued just before 2 p.m. today after one migrant boat got into difficulties just as it arrived in UK waters. Maritime sources told GBNews a significant number of migrants ended up falling overboard and into the Channel. More than 600 migrants made it to UK waters today. And it comes just days after more than 1,000 people made the crossing in a single day. And for the first time, NHS trusts in England have been ranked in league tables. At the top, Mooresfield Eye Hospital, followed by the Royal National Orthopaedic and the Christys Cancer Centre. At the bottom, Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Kings Lynn, where crumbling buildings have long caused problems. Health Secretary Wes Streeting says the tables will shine a light on struggling trusts and end the postcode lottery of care. But NHS leaders warn the rankings could be misleading if the wrong measures are used. And those are the latest GB News headlines for now. More from me in an hour.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
Welcome to the show, everyone. Well, now to an exclusive interview with one of the creators of Father Ted, Graham Linehan. He's talked to GB News about his controversial arrest last week for a number of posts on X. He spoke to Free Speech Nation host Josh Howie.
Thank you so much for coming in to speak to us. And let me, first of all, say welcome to the UK.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Must be so good to be back.
Great to be here. Great to be here.
So you come out the airport and then you're walking down the escalators and then you're like, oh yeah, I'm back in the UK. But you had a slightly different experience.
Yeah, it started on the plane. The plane landed. And you know the way usually when a plane lands, like as soon as it breaks, everyone's on their feet. Well, people started standing up and they were told to sit back down in their chairs, you know. And I was looking at them thinking, oh, I wonder what's going on. It must be a terrorist on board or something.
Why is everyone looking at me?
Yeah. Well, no one. But then they said my name, and I immediately kind of guessed what was going on. I got all my stuff in front of these confused Arizonian people, and I had to get off in front of all of them. So that was a great welcome to the freedoms in the UK for them. And when I stepped off the plane, there were 3 policemen on one side, 2 on the other, just flanking the doorway. And as soon as I saw them, I said, don't tell me trans activists sent you, you know? And they just, I mean, I have to say, the policemen who picked me up were really decent, you know? They brought me to a quiet area where I wouldn't be embarrassed, and they told me I was under arrest. But because I was just so disgusted that I went nuts. I was absolutely infuriated. I said, do you know how you look to America? Do you know what America thinks of Britain at the moment? And, you know, it's nothing to do with them. They don't care. They're not making the rules. So finally, I mean, I was so incandescent with anger. They did talk about putting cuffs on me. So he said, please just let me calm down. You're not bringing me through an airport in cuffs for defending women's rights. And they went off and they discussed it, and they agreed to bring a van around the back. And I went down and I thought, oh, okay, that's not so bad. But then they opened the back of it, and I had to sit in a little tiny cell in the back, like that's like, you know, that. And I just went, and they could see how shocked I was by it all. So when I was sitting in that little cell, they said, do you want us to open the door? And they opened the door so I could stick my legs out the thing. So then they brought me to Heathrow police station. And again, the guy who was signing me in couldn't get the smile off his face because he was delighted to meet the writer, Father Ted. And I got on really well with everybody, and it was all very polite. And then I was brought to a cell, and I sort of couldn't believe it. I thought it was going to continue like that, with me sitting around and waiting to be interviewed, and then, but no, I mean, this has happened to a lot of women I know in the fight. The process is the punishment. And I think that the UK police thought, let's frighten them into shutting up. And so they decided to, I don't know, engage in a form of light torture, you know, as any time without my phone is to me. But they you know, they kind of, I just sat there and twiddled my thumbs for a few hours. Luckily, I fell asleep, so that killed some time. But it took about 10 hours to get my interview. They said they did come by and felt it wasn't proportionate to wake me up, but I still think it was deliberate to keep me waiting that long.
Yeah. And then they got you in the interview. Was it it's different policemen, I imagine, at that point?
Yes, the policeman was you know, he as with all the police in this country, he hadn't a clue what was going on. You know, he was asking me about trans people. I said, what do you mean by trans people? And he said, people who feel their gender is a different blah, 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 all this, the usual guff.
Didn't he say assigned at birth?
Assigned at birth. He said assigned at birth. And of course, that's activist language, because our sex is not assigned at birth. It's observed and recorded in utero. So these police have been, you know, have had their brains warped by 10 years of Stonewall advice that misrepresented the Equality Act, you know? And even with the recent Supreme Court ruling, they're still acting as if Stonewall rules apply, you know? So after a while, I just resigned myself to it. It was boring and exhausting, and you know, then it turned potentially fatal, because they checked my pulse, and it was 200, which apparently is extremely high. I don't really, and all those numbers, I never know what they mean. You know,
200 sounds high.
200 is high, you know. And I was like, and the guy was so astonished by my heart rate that he had to do it manually to make sure it was right. And they said he has to go to the hospital. So I went to the hospital, and again, all the policemen were very nice. The hospital staff were lovely, of course. But I had to just stay and until 8 a.m. the next morning. So I'd been in custody and then the hospital for about, I don't know, whatever it was, 16 hours, something like that. So yeah.
There's a photo of you standing in the hospital. I mean, you must have been utterly shattered at that point, and you had a thing in your arm.
I wrote the piece, you know, and
you'd been banned from going online.
Yes,
on X.
On X,
yeah.
but not my Substack.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe it, but they gave me all my devices back. So even as exhausted as I was, I just went and I sat down and I wrote the piece detailing everything that happened and got it out at around 6, 7 a.m., 8 a.m., something like that. So, yeah, that's kind of, then I went to the nearby Sheraton Hotel.
So sorry, just go back
Sure.
just a little bit. Whilst you were being interviewed, did they give you any specific explanation? Because when you wrote your Substack, you mentioned a couple of tweets that they'd identified.
Oh yeah, there's 3 tweets. The first one, I mean, believe me, I'm not proud of the tweets. They're not and not because I disagree with them, but because they're not my funniest.
That's the worst. That's the worst is when that gets identified.
And then the one that was kind of like, the first one they told me about was I guess what you could call the violent one, where I said, if a man is in a female-only space, or a trans-identified male, I said, is in a female-only space, he is committing a violent, abusive act. Make a scene, I think I said, call the police, and if all else fails, kick him in the balls,
yeah.
You know? And so, you know, then, I mean, you know, the joke, there's 2 jokes in that. Oh no, punch him in the balls. There were 2 jokes in that. The first was the idea that women and men is a height difference, so it might be easier for women to punch a bloke in the balls than it is for a man. Second was the idea of, you know, punching any woman in the balls is clearly absurd, but yet that's the reality that UK police and the UK government is trying to enforce on people, even after the Supreme Court ruling.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, there's even a third thing, which is that the idea that they would complain, they would call the police who wouldn't do anything necessarily, and this is what they would then be having to resort to.
Yeah. I mean, you know, someone asked today, would I have got into trouble if the tweet was aimed at actual women? And I have to, I probably would have got into trouble, but only because I would have been mass reported by TRAs. But these TRAs, which means trans rights activists, they send death threats, rape threats, 24/7, and the police do nothing about them. And the reason they do nothing about them is they don't understand the issue, and they've been lied to by Stonewall about the nature of the Equality Act.
Well, bombshell stuff there. And I've got the man who interviewed Graham Linehan with me right now, Josh Howie. Thank you so much for joining me. I mean, I think perhaps it's really good for the audience to understand, what did you take away from that? Because you deal with a lot of free speech cases on your own show yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I think that everybody, when they woke up that morning to see that he'd been arrested at the airport, was piqued, because it seemed just so surreal and ridiculous. But at the centre of it is this man, and he's a guy who's been fighting for women's rights, for children, safety. It's cost him a lot, and suddenly it's escalated to the point where he can't even come back to the UK and without visiting a hospital, without being met by 5 armed police.
Yeah, and just because, of course, this is not the full interview they've seen, though, we're going to play another clip of it later in the show. What else should the audience expect to see? Well,
he talks about, now he's living in America, but he talks about the response around the world. It isn't just, and of course America seems particularly obsessed with free speech in the UK, and the response over there, it's not just people here that have been piqued, it's people in America who are looking very much with concern what's going on. And then we also talk about his future, but really he's even now, because obviously free speech is my focus, and I kept on trying to sort of bring it round to that. He is very singularly focused on women's rights, and this is what he wants more and more people to see, is what this actually has meant and how these activists have used the police force, really, to, he believes, do their bidding.
Well, there we go. Loads more coming up, of course, in the show, so stay tuned to catch the rest of that. But I want to bring in the rest of the panel here. Westminster City Councillor for Reform UK, Layla Cunningham, political commentator Jonathan Liss, and GB News contributor Will Kingston. Well, Jonathan, I'll start with you here. Now, you know, people like J.K. Rowling have called the United Kingdom totalitarian. We've got Nigel Farage, who's gone over to America. And I think there's this feeling, and you can criticise it as much as I'm sure you will, but that you can't sort of get away from this underlying feeling that something is wrong here. What do you make of that?
I think that there needs to be a very, very high bar for arresting people for things they say. If you say that someone should punch a person in the balls or kick a person in the balls, for example, I'm not sure that that should be something that is considered as serious as actually doing it. I think that what you do is more important than what you say. Now, I think it's still important that we have laws about inciting violence, about inciting hatred, etc. I don't think that.
But are they
I don't think that the internet should be a complete Wild West where you can say or do absolutely anything you want. And as the old expression goes, free speech has never included the right to shout fire in a crowded theatre. But I do think that we've got the balance wrong. And I think this goes to both sides of the political side, Alex, because at the moment, you know, we just had at the weekend almost 900 people arrested for holding up signs about Palestine action. Now, I think if you are going to go really hard on free speech on the Graham Linehan side of things, with trans rights, etc., or Lucy Connolly or whatever, I think you also need to be consistent and condemn the government for criminalising that kind of speech as well.
OK, Layla, I'm going to bring you in on this, but I first want to show the audience this clip from Keir Starmer in PMQs just this week.
I've been clear throughout, we must ensure the police focus on the most serious issues and the issues that matter most to our constituencies and all communities. And that includes tackling issues like antisocial behaviour, knife crime and violence. And we have a long history of free speech in this country. I'm very proud of that and I will always defend it.
Yeah, that was last week. I apologise. I don't know what day of week it is anymore. Layla, I mean, he's talking tough on that there, saying, you know, they should be policing the streets more and taking things more serious matters. But my opinion on this, Layla, is that it's their job in Parliament to legislate and to change law where it's been enacted incorrectly. What do you make of that?
So, if someone in this country, if someone can be arrested for a joke or a comment about biological differences, then actually none of us are safe and none of us can comment. I mean, this is how freedom dies, and we see it dying, and it's not all at once. It's bit by bits, case by case. And when safety is always a smokescreen for censorship and control. We had it during COVID. We had it more encroaching laws after 7/7, after September 11th. The government likes to take away rights and they never, ever give it back.
Yeah, well, that's a feeling, is it? Because Nigel Farage, of course, was in Washington, D.C., said we're turning into North Korea. Is that too far?
It is too far in a literal sense, but he's trying to make a rhetorical point. Alex, I'm angry. I'm really angry. We discussed this last week on this very show. Jonathan and I discussed it. He agreed that this is a problem. Owen Jones has agreed that this is a problem. Everyone across the political spectrum agrees this is a problem.
I wouldn't say everybody, but yeah.
Almost everybody, at least rhetorically, is saying we believe in free speech. Keir Starmer in that last clip just said free speech is very important. We've had a very long time in this country. What has actually been done in the last week in terms of what are the policy changes we're going to make about this? I haven't heard a single thing about the Public Order Act. We need to rip up that inciting racial hatred part of that act. It is a nonsense. We need to increase the bar for the incitement to violence so it reflects the US standard. But I haven't heard, and to be fair, Layla, I haven't heard anything from Reform on the policy changes that we would need to make to actually change the regime.
Yes, you have. We're going to remove the online safety bill. That is a huge encroachment of freedom of speech. There are parts of it that allow the Secretary of State to decide what I should see and what I shouldn't see. And going back to Josh's point, he says that it shouldn't be the Wild Wild West.
Jonathan, that's fine.
I'm so sorry, Jonathan. But hang on. But it shouldn't be the Wild Wild West. But who decides what's on and what's off? It has to be. We have to be the arbiters of what we see.
If I could just... Sorry, I think one thing that has also been lost here is... So Mark Rowley came out, he made a statement, he's blaming the politicians.
Yes.
But there's no actual accountability for this particular case. The fact is, a bunch of people signed off on this. Those people should be identified and, frankly, they should be re-educated. That sounds a little bit too Chinese.
That does sound like North Korea, actually.
Too Chinese in and of itself. But they should be... The focus, of course, of the police is to be preventing crime or solving crime.
The thing is, Alex, this should never have warranted a dramatic police arrest, right? You do that when you're scared of someone's going to destroy evidence or you're scared of them absconding. A middle-aged man coming off a plane did not warrant that kind of arrest. They could have sent him a postal requisition. He is not violent. That is performative.
Yes, I totally...
I think everyone can agree with that. Even people who supported the arrest can agree with that part, yeah.
Who the hell supported the arrest?
Jonathan said, you know, he obviously was using the Palestine Action as an example. What do you make of that? Because, of course, there's a prescribed terrorist group involved in that, and, of course, people have chosen to go out with those signs. And I err on the side of caution here. I worry that if it's because it's a group that I don't agree with, I'm like, yeah, let's lock them up, that there's this wider implications with that.
Of course, there's always this tendency, people on both sides of the political divide, to sort of think that free speech only matters for their particular opinions. But you're right, that it seems ridiculous that these people have been arrested. There is a difference here in that they have broken, to our understanding, a very clear law.
Well, so Lucy Connolly. But, I mean, you can say that anyone's broken the law.
But
the law itself might be bad.
none of those people have gone to jail for a year and a half.
But a lot of them will. But a lot of them will go. But they could technically be jailed for 14 years.
Let me just hear these two. Hang on.
It's not Palestine Action. It was not an encroachment of freedom of speech. They were a prescribed terrorist organisation.
I'm not talking about Palestine Action itself. I'm talking about the people who say they support it.
So you cannot, in this country, support a prescribed terrorist
group. Because the government chose to prescribe it.
Yes, but because they performed a terrorist act.
No, they didn't. They performed a criminal act, an alleged criminal act, not a terrorist act. So when you attack one of our defences or our military bases, that is a terrorist act. There is there is no
way you can disagree with that.
Well, literally is because I do disagree with it. There is literally there is no legal basis for calling that a terrorist act. And when the Terrorism Act...
Terrorism act on our soil.
No, it was not targeting any civilians.
It doesn't have to.
No, it was a crime against property.
Military infrastructure.
Let me bring in Will to this conversation, Will, because this is a complicated issue, in my opinion. I don't think it's as clean-cut as everyone wants to make it seem, because I think those people are using the fact that this is a prescribed terrorist organisation to antagonise the government, say you can't arrest all of us, there's not enough prison spaces, we know it, and therefore that law looks very, very silly, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, but at the same time, this is what happens when you start policing speech very subjectively, is you do get a pushback. That's why policing speech is so ineffective. In the course of human history, you have never, ever been able to abolish an idea by censoring it. It doesn't happen. What you do is you push it underground, and as a result of that, you get this sort of pushback. So whilst I think the Palestine Action thing greys the area, because I can see the argument that they went into a military base, but I can also see the argument that could potentially be perceived as a terrorist act. We do need to err on the side, though, of speech as opposed to on the side of authoritarianism.
As with all these things, Will, it's always about the reasonable person test. Does a reasonable person think that Palestine Action, a group that was targeting a military infrastructure, was on the level of ISIS? Most reasonable people would not agree with that.
There are different levels of terrorism.
Layla,
No, it's not. The law is not about what a reasonable person thinks.
Well, a lot of reasonable people in the Labour Party think that they shouldn't have prescribed it.
That's why they're going to lose the election. But what I'm saying is they committed an act of terrorism on our soil. That's what they're saying.
It was not an act of terrorism.
Jonathan,
it was a criminal act.
I have to stop you guys. We have got to move on, unfortunately. We're running out of time. A spokesman for the Metropolitan Police has said this: "We completely refute any suggestion the Met is preferential in its treatment of complaints. We police without fear or favour." A Home Office spokesman said the government's priorities for policing are clear: putting more neighbourhood police on the beat, cracking down on the crimes that blight communities, and reducing the most serious violence. Those are priorities which the public and police officers share, and on which this government is delivering as part of our plan for change. A Stonewall spokesman said this: "Our guidance for employers covers a wide range of issues and is designed to enable inclusion. Our guidance has always been compliant with the law, and we will continue to ensure this is the case. The EHRC's draft guidance has yet to complete the necessary process, including going through parliamentary scrutiny. Right now, we urge organisations to act with caution until the process is complete and new statutory guidance is issued." Right, coming up.
As Caribbean people, we are not going to forget our history. We don't just want to hear an apology, we want reparation.
That's your Deputy Prime Minister, everybody. And the African Union is demanding the UK pay what it calls meaningful reparations. Haven't we already done that anyway? Due to our past as a colonial power. And...
Oh, America, the UK has a terrible reputation in America at the moment. It's seen as just out of control, close to chaos. But their first experience of the UK was to see a comedy writer arrested for tweeting.
More of that bombshell interview with Graham Linehan coming up throughout the show. But next, in the state of Texas, Sharia law and Sharia cities are banned. Should the UK do the same? We'll debate that next. This is Patrick Christys Tonight with me, Alex Armstrong, only on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we are proud to stand for you, for the Britain you love, for the communities you live in. That's what makes us the fearless champions of Britain. Its voices and its values. Because we, at GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. It's time now for our head-to-head. We talk about this a lot these days, don't we? Particularly here in the United Kingdom. But is it time to ban Sharia law? In the United States, Texas has banned all Sharia courts after Governor Tony Abbott branded it a legal system that flouts human rights. Muslims advocates accused the governor of fear-mongering. But with all 50 US states expected to follow suit, is it time to do the same here in the United Kingdom? Well, joining us live in the studio somehow, because the strike's on, we have everyone managed to make it, this is great, is Mahtab Aziz and senior litigation lawyer and spokesperson for Republicans overseas, Nora Lee Nodson. Nora Lee, I will start with you, of course, first, because you are from Texas.
Yes, I'm from Texas, and let me just correct you. I'm actually a U.S. political commentator. I am not a litigator. I believe you are the litigator,
and you are the commentator. Good to know. Thank you for correcting us. Now, listen, you're from Texas, so
yes.
So what is your take on this banning of Sharia courts in Texas?
Well, firstly, it is unconstitutional to have Sharia law, any Catholic canon law, any religious law is unconstitutional. So this should not be news to anybody. What Governor Abbott has done is just re-emphasized and doubled down on the fact that you cannot compel anybody to practice a religion that is unconstitutional.
Indeed. And Mahtab, of course, you'll disagree, I'm sure.
Well, Laura Lee is correct on one point. Yes, the Constitution of America does not allow a parallel legal system, but the Federal Arbitration Act of 1925 does, because that act, in fact, allows arbitration between different religious minorities, which includes Christians, Jews, and Muslims. So that's the federal law. So each state may have or try to ban, but they come up against the federal law and they won't succeed.
Do you think that's the case?
That's actually incorrect, because the supreme law of the United States of America is the Constitution. And so the government cannot enforce a religion. It cannot compel anybody to abide by a religion. You have freedom to choose what religion you want to practice. It doesn't matter. You can do it on your own, but you can't compel other people to practice that. And you have freedom of expression as well. And you have equal rights for all, men, women, children. And as we know, some religions do not apply that across the board. So it is unconstitutional. The United States Constitution is the supreme law, and that's what makes our country so great.
While we're still with you, what do you make of somewhere like the United Kingdom doing this? We don't have those sorts of... We're actually, well, technically, in some parts, some people would say we're still a Christian country, but technically this is not illegal in the United Kingdom. What do you make of that here?
The fact that you have Sharia law here.
That it's legal, technically, to have Sharia law here, as long as it doesn't interfere with British justice system.
It makes no common sense to me that you can have two legal systems and treat people entirely differently. There should be one law. We respect people's country, their laws, and if we don't like it, we shouldn't be living there. Just as if I'm in any other country, I will be respectful of those laws. Yep. It's common sense.
Mahtab, we saw, I think it was up to like 85 Sharia courts in the UK was reported on. Many British people see that number and it sends them very fearful, very, very fearful, because they think, well, what on earth are these people who are coming to the country? Many of them may not have naturally assimilated and culturally integrated and don't believe that the ultimate law in Britain is the court of law, which is what most people want it to be. What is your argument again to back to those people?
Sure. If I can just point out that what Laura Lee is actually saying is Laura Lee is actually conflating what we call mediation, arbitration with the law as it's enacted. There's a big difference. You can't mix the two. Arbitration involves two parties coming together before going to court.
OK.
So in actual fact, it actually supports the legal system of any country, because what it does is it allows people to resolve their differences without going to court, and thereby they actually help the system.
But what do you make of the criticism of Sharia law? Because in many cases, people will say, actually, Sharia law is very anti-women. It really leans in favour of the male in many of those situations, and they say it's not compatible with Western values.
That's not correct, because the initial setting up of the first Sharia court was actually to help women, because women are finding that they couldn't actually get divorce done because their husbands were like disappearing or whatever. The Sharia councils that were set up were to help women who wanted to get...
So we should embrace it in the UK? We should embrace it, you think?
Well, as it is, it's not impinging on the law.
And what would you make of us embracing it in the UK? How would that be seen in America?
Again, as I said, there should only be one law that applies for all. We should all have equal rights according to the one law of that country.
Nora Lee, thank you so much. Matav, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate you coming here tonight, particularly with all these strikes on, for a very good debate. Well, coming up tomorrow at 7 p.m, it's the Farage Immigration 2-hour special. You will not want to miss this one. GB News will be covering some astonishing exclusive stories, speaking to stellar guests and providing world-class analysis. Immigration is not an issue. It is the issue of our time. Don't forget to send in your views, farage@gbnews.com, and tune in this Wednesday at 7 p.m. for that 2-hour special. All right, coming up, Banksy could finally be unmasked as police launch an investigation into possible criminal damage after a new artwork was sprayed on the Royal Courts of Justice in London. And
I know GB News and other kind of, let's say, conservative outlets think free speech is the big aspect of this, but it really isn't. It's women's rights.
More of that bombshell interview with Graham Linehan coming shortly. But next, the African Union is demanding the UK pay what it calls meaningful reparations due to our past as a colonial power. This is Patrick Christys tonight with me, Alex Armstrong. I will see you in a tick.
Be nice to escape the grey.
Clear skies, here we come.
As clear as our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Looking ahead to tomorrow and across particularly northern parts of Italy, also into Croatia, there will be the return of heavy thundery rain. Also around the Canary Islands, a few showery bursts possible. A bit of rain pushing into the north of Portugal and northwest Spain. Otherwise, a good deal of fine, often sunny weather around. Also across Greece, generally dry, just a few showers to watch out for here. As we go through the rest of the week, away from parts of Italy and Croatia, it is going to be mostly dry and sunny.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. An unsettled day ahead tomorrow, cloudy for many with heavy showers and also spells of rain, particularly in the west. That's where we'll see areas of low pressure starting to move through. This one initially tonight bringing in spells of rain and then followed on behind by another area of low pressure, bringing some wet and windy conditions for Wednesday. Back to this evening, and this area of rain that's been across Wales and southwest England eventually moving its way northeastwards, pushing into central areas of England and parts of the south and southeast. This could be heavy and thundery at times. Also more cloud and showers starting to push in from the west, but with more cloud around that means it's not going to be quite as cool overnight. Many towns and cities dropping to around 11 to 13 degrees Celsius. Wednesday is set to be quite a changeable and mixed day. Once again, heavy showers starting to push into Wales, southwest England, plenty of cloud elsewhere and also a continuation of the showers. Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, once again cloudy, murky with some heavy showers through the first part of the morning. Fairly similar conditions across western and southern parts of Scotland. Towards the far northeast, though, it should remain mostly dry through the early hours, but even eventually here we'll start to see some showers creep through. And we'll see quite a changeable and mixed day, plenty of cloud around showers, which will turn heavy at times with some hail and thunder, with a secondary band of rain, which we do just need to keep an eye on as it starts to push its way into Northern Ireland, parts of Wales and southwest England. And it's going to be quite a breezy day, if not quite blustery, particularly around western coasts. Temperatures around about average for the time of year. Heading into Thursday, and there'll be some drier and brighter spells, but once again mixed in with some showers. The bulk of the showers are likely to be towards northwestern parts of Scotland, northern coast of Northern Ireland, so some heavy and blustery downpours expected here. But elsewhere across the country, there will be some bright and sunny spells in between. The showers are set to continue for the end of the week into the weekend, with temperatures remaining around average.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Miriam, you can't be serious. Scrapping the triple lock on state pensions? Madness.
Andrew, we just can't carry on pretending. The numbers just don't add up. We've got to be honest with people. We've got to face the facts. That's what people want.
Well, that's what you get on GB News and on Britain's Newsroom. Lively debates, lively conversation.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first, and we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back, everybody. Well, what do you think about reparations tonight? Would you like to pay some tomorrow morning? Maybe never, perhaps? Well, the African Union are demanding or calling on other colonial powers to pay reparations for our time, of course, with our empires. I'm going to bring in my fantastic panel. Will, I'll start with you, because we love talking about this. We've had this on the Saturday Five a few times, you and I. Reparations, what do you make of them? Maybe you should have some. You're Australian.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You know, a descendant of convicts being put into that barren land. Alex, I've got a simple response to the African Union, and I've got a more nuanced response. The simple response is sod off. The more nuanced response is they never do a pros-cons list, do they? They never say, well, you know what, slavery was a historic evil, and they always end there. They never say, well, you know what, we did give you the rule of law, we did give you technology, we gave you running water, we gave you the rights for women in societies where women were treated abhorrently. They never actually weigh all these things up, do they? And above and beyond anything else, they never say, you know what, thank you for ending the slave trade and putting billions and billions of pounds into doing so. I'll go back to the start. Sod off.
It's a good response. Layla, of course, you know, I can't imagine Reform UK would ever agree to paying reparations if they ever came.
Well, one Reform guy actually said that he may.
Who did?
This was about 6 months ago. There was,
oh, right.
We'll have to give him... GBNews/your say. Can you do some research on that?
I mean, don't forget, we were the first nation to abolish slavery. Exactly. And we used our navy to get other nations to abolish it, and there's no slave owner alive today, or you know, a slave who was. Why should anyone alive today pay for reparations for anything that happened a long time ago?
We also spent 50% of our GDP, you know, going around the world doing that, Jonathan. I know are you a bit pro... I think you might be pro-reparations, actually, just having a look at your...
I can almost feel it. I can sense it.
I feel tension.
Jonathan, why should we pay reparations? Come on, we did a lot as a country to end the slave trade. And I remember there was a moment, I can't remember what it was, but the British public saw how the slaves were being shipped. They saw a diagram of it, and then they protested, and after that was the end of it, because the British public said this is disgraceful. Why should
and what happened when we abolished slavery, by the way? Who got the reparations then? Was it the slaves? No, of course not. It was the slave owners. The debt that wasn't sort of paid off until a few years ago,
What about all the soldiers that died on the boats going around the world trying to stop slavery?
Alex, look. The fundamental point is that Britain did something really, really terrible. Even the people, and I debate many of them on this channel, who say, no, you're lying, Britain's never done anything bad.
Jonathan, you know that the Africans, Ottomans, Arabs, everyone had slaves.
Layla, we're not.
So does everyone pay reparations?
We're talking about what Britain did.
Hang on.
And we're talking about the black sort of Atlantic, the white, what the white countries, the European countries did.
What about
to those slaves was in a different league from other kinds of slavery in terms of scale. And I think there does need to be a conversation. I'm not sort of going to put down on paper what number I think would be appropriate, but I think we can certainly have a rational discussion.
Who's going to pay for it?
Well, I think that's obviously up for governments, isn't it?
So, who pays for government? There is no government money. It's our money. It's taxpayer money.
We already have an international aid budget.
Very briefly, Will, because I think we forget we just gave Chagos, what is it, 30, 40 billion pounds?
None of them have to...
That little line there was something about reparations and colonial past, wasn't there?
There was. In fact, I think the Chagosians don't have to pay income tax now as a result of our selflessness.
Well, we pay loads.
As we pay loads. We need to put Britain first.
Yeah, OK,
We're not Chagosians. So Chagosians were kicked out of the Chagos Islands.
We have to
by the British government in the 60s.
These demands have been rejected by Sir Keir Starmer, despite there being hopes that Labour would be more willing to pay from some, perhaps. Not from me. Anyway, let's move on, because coming up next, we've got our great British giveaway. It's your chance to win a big prize worth over 104 grand. You could walk away with a 4-berth motorhome worth over 74k plus 30k in tax-free cash. Here's all the details.
This is your chance to win a motorhome and cash in our biggest giveaway to date. Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be the proud owner of this 2025 Benamar Primero. It comfortably accommodates 4 people, comes with integrated bathroom and kitchen areas, has plenty of storage and can be driven on your standard driving licence. Plus, you'll also bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like, taking the total prize value of this great British giveaway over a whopping £104,000. Make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Blinds close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. The winner will be contacted live on GB News, week commencing 10th November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck, everybody. Well, coming up, another Islamist terrorist, Rangzib Ahmed, the so-called leader of Al-Qaeda in Britain, might be back on our streets very soon. And
the only definition you can get is the one this dizzy policeman told me, which was, you know, it's a person who feels this and that. How can you base law on a feeling, on a subjective feeling? How can you? You can't.
Yeah, more of that, but next, Banksy could finally be unmasked as police launch an investigation, a criminal damage one, after a new artwork was sprayed on the Royal Courts of Justice in London. This is Patrick Christys tonight with me, Alex Armstrong. See you shortly.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christys here.
I'm Michelle Duke, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device, and as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country. There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor. Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back, everybody. Well, all of you must have seen that famous Banksy painting that was found under the CCTV camera at the Royal Courts of Justice in London, which shows, if you haven't seen it, a judge attacking a protester who's holding up a white sign. It was unveiled 2 days after 890 protesters were arrested at Palestine Action protest. The Met Police have said they're investigating the graffiti as potential criminal damage, which means Banksy, who has remained anonymous for over 25 years, may have to reveal his name publicly if the case ever went to court. Now, here's the kicker, right? Because the artwork has now been covered with black plastic sheeting protected by metal barriers and security. Right? It's totally bonkers, isn't it? It's totally bonkers. When Banksies go up all over the rest of the country, we celebrate them, but because it's on the Royal Courts of Justice, it's now criminal damage. Crazy, that, isn't it? Well, now I'm joined by retired Scotland Yard Detective Inspector Hamish Brown. Hamish, thank you so much for joining me. Now, look, Banksy is probably one of the best-known artists in the United Kingdom in our modern era. He does these statements, he makes these political statements, and they're meant to sort of, be a message, aren't they? And many people are saying, because it's been sprayed on the Royal Courts of Justice, now the police decide they want to crack down on it. Is that what's happening here, or is this just usual protocol?
Well, you fairly mentioned that Banksy is a very famous, acknowledged, and in many ways respected, I suppose. But this is an image on a listed building, and it does depict a judge, and it's a court building, of course, aiming a blow with a gavel at a protester's head. Now, it's up to the police to say, is that criminal damage? And on the face of it, yes, it is. But a few things will have to be weighed up here. Again, to reiterate your point, he is well respected. He's made political statements all over the place. And are you going to take that forward?
Yeah, because many people... Sorry, go on, Hamish. Beg your pardon.
Yes, the reason I mentioned that was I'm mindful of the statue, I think it's Edward Colston, in Bristol a few years ago, which was ripped off the plinth and thrown in the river. And this was to do with slavery and all that sort of thing. And the jury took a sympathetic view, in my view, and many others for that matter, that they had reasonable cause to do that, sided with him or with the cause, and found the defendants not guilty. Now, if the police investigate this, they find the person responsible, the papers would go to the Crown Prosecution Service, and they're going to work out, one, is it really capable of proof? Has a crime been committed? And I think the answer is yes. But the second point is there will be a realistic or possible realistic chance of conviction, but is it in the public interest? So these are things both the police and the Crown Prosecution Service have got to come to terms with, but it is the police in the first instance who have got to do the investigation and identify the suspect.
Yeah, and Hamish, from a, perhaps maybe if you don't mind commenting from a sort of political perspective here, because it doesn't look good for our court system, does it, to have this judge being depicted in this way? But perhaps it's very apt, because there is a feeling in the country at the moment, isn't there, that many people feel that the judicial system is working against the people and it is crushing their freedom of speech. And many people will see this being covered up as a sign that actually they want to cover up this message. Will the police take that into consideration?
Well, I think there are a couple of points here. If we look to the European Court of Human Rights, Article 10, which we often say freedom of speech, in fact, it's freedom of expression, people might say, well, he's entitled to do that. And indeed, the ECHR says that's fine, but you can't do it if it's going to go and offend other people.
Yeah, and of course they would argue it's criminal damage, of course, wouldn't they too, Hamish?
I'm sorry, I missed it.
I was going to say, I mean, unfortunately, Hamish, we've run out of time, but of course the government would argue, the police would argue that it was criminal damage, and that would be their line, I'm sure. Well, let's see how that develops, and please come back and join us when we know more. Retired Scotland Yard Detective Inspector there, Hamish Brown, thank you so much for joining me. Well, coming up, for the first time in nearly 3 years, an unassisted migrant boat has landed on a UK beach, sparking fresh pressure on Keir Starmer, a bit like me talking tonight, as Channel crossings hit a record high. Also...
No, it's not just me who's suffering from this kind of overreach. More importantly, it's ordinary people who do not have the backing of the Free Speech Union, who do not have the backing of all the people I've made friends with over the last few years.
All right, more of that bombshell shortly. See you shortly.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. An unsettled day ahead tomorrow, cloudy for many with heavy showers and also spells of rain, particularly in the west. That's where we'll see areas of low pressure starting to move through. This one initially tonight bringing in spells of rain and then followed on behind by another area of low pressure, bringing some wet and windy conditions for Wednesday. Back to this evening, and this area of rain that's been across Wales and southwest England eventually moving its way northeastwards, pushing into central areas of England and parts of the south and southeast. This could be heavy and thundery at times. Also more cloud and showers starting to push in from the west. But with more cloud around, that means it's not going to be quite as cool overnight. Many towns and cities dropping to around 11 to 13 degrees Celsius. Wednesday is set to be quite a changeable and mixed day. Once again, heavy showers starting to push into Wales, southwest England, plenty of cloud elsewhere, and also a continuation of the showers. Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, once again cloudy, murky, with some heavy showers through the first part of the morning. Fairly similar conditions across western and southern parts of Scotland. Towards the far northeast, though, it should remain mostly dry through the early hours, but even eventually here, we'll start to see some showers creep through. And we'll see quite a changeable and mixed day, plenty of cloud around, showers which will turn heavy at times with some hail and thunder, with a secondary band of rain which we do just need to keep an eye on as it starts to push its way into Northern Ireland, parts of Wales and southwest England. And it's going to be quite a breezy day, if not quite blustery, particularly around western coasts. Temperatures around about average for the time of year. Heading into Thursday, and there'll be some drier and brighter spells, but once again mixed in with some showers. The bulk of the showers are likely to be towards northwestern parts of Scotland, northern coast of Northern Ireland, so some heavy and blustery downpours expected here. But elsewhere across the country, there will be some bright and sunny spells in between. The showers are set to continue for the end of the week into the weekend, with temperatures remaining around average.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
This is your chance to win a motorhome and cash in our biggest giveaway to date. Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be the proud owner of this 2025 Benamar Primero. It comfortably accommodates 4 people and can be driven on your standard driving licence. Plus, you'll also bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. Make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
And
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, it's 10 p.m. I'm Alex Armstrong. A huge exclusive for you tonight. Another Islamist terrorist, Rangzib Ahmed, the so-called leader of Al-Qaeda in Britain, might be back on our streets very soon. And
Will you stand up for your wife? Will you stand up for your mum and for your daughter and your sister? Will you stand up for them?
we'll be bringing you the second part of that bombshell interview with Graham Linehan. Also, tube strikes across London, but this driver can do it all while knitting. Is it time to just make them all driverless trains? Also,
as Caribbean people, we are not going to forget our history. We don't just want to hear an apology, we want reparation.
that was Deputy Prime Minister David Lammy, and the African Union has joined the campaign for reparations from Britain and all former colonial powers. Also, Banksy's identity could be revealed following his latest artwork at the Royal Courts of Justice. And French police chief says he's ill-equipped and spending British money on the wrong stuff for the first time in nearly 3 years. An unescorted migrant boat has also landed on a UK beach. It's a total disaster, isn't it? And tomorrow's front pages are dropping as we speak. On the front page of the Metro, Qatar fury at Israel's strike. Well, on my panel tonight, Westminster City Councillor for Reform UK, Layla Cunningham, political commentator Jonathan Liss, and GB News contributor Will Kingston. And should pop stars get involved in politics? Your Tuesday night starts right here. Huge exclusive. Are you about to have an Islamist terrorist living next door to you? Next.
Alex, thank you. Good evening. The top story. Sir Keir Starmer has condemned Israel's attack on Qatar, saying it violates Qatar's sovereignty and risks further escalation across the region. Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel takes full responsibility for its strike on Hamas leaders in the capital, Doha. Donald Trump says the US was told of the attack by the US military and tried to inform the Qataris of the impending attack, but it was too late. A Hamas official says its negotiating team was targeted during a meeting. The terror group says 6 of its members were killed in the attack, including the son of Hamas leader Khalil al-Hayya. The strike comes just months after explosions were reported over the city in June when missiles were launched by Iran aimed at US air bases in the region. Qatar's foreign ministry says the attack is a blatant violation of international law. The IDF says it conducted a precise strike, and those targeted, they say, are directly responsible for the brutal October the 7th massacre. It comes after Hamas claimed responsibility for yesterday's deadly shooting on the outskirts of Jerusalem that left 6 Israelis dead and 8 wounded. Police say 2 gunmen opened fire on people waiting at a bus stop before being shot dead by an off-duty soldier. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called it part of Israel's intense war against terrorism, vowing to pursue anyone who helped the attackers. The government's Chagos deal has passed its second reading in the House of Commons today, debating the Diego Garcia military base and British Indian Ocean Territory Bill. Several Conservative MPs warned the deal with Mauritius could aid Chinese authorities in achieving their goals in the Indian Ocean. But Defence Minister Luke Pollard insisted the draft new law would see off a legal threat to the UK-US military base. MPs backed it this evening by 330 votes to 179, voting to surrender the Chagos Islands, possibly costing British taxpayers £47 billion. The UK government signed an agreement in May to cede the Chagos Islands to Mauritius, but will retain control over the Diego Garcia base for at least 99 years at an average annual cost of £101 million. In other news today, a woman has died after a small boat incident in the English Channel. A mayday call was issued just before 2 p.m. after one migrant boat got into difficulties just as it arrived in UK waters. Maritime sources told GBNews a significant number of migrants ended up falling overboard and into the Channel. More than 600 migrants made it to UK waters today. It comes just days after more than 1,000 people made the crossing in a single day. And nearly 100,000 more pupils are set to benefit from new school improvement teams targeting support at schools with the lowest attainment. The government says it's the next phase of its plan for change, aiming to drive up standards and reassure parents that their children are getting the education they deserve. It comes as Ofsted confirms it'll scrap single headline grades, replacing them with new report cards to give families clearer information. Those are the latest headlines for now. More in an hour.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Welcome back, everybody. Well, another Islamist terrorist might be back on our streets very soon. Rangzib Ahmed, the so-called leader of Al-Qaeda in Britain, the first man ever convicted of directing terrorism, was jailed for life in 2008 for plotting carnage on our streets, for being at the heart of Britain's darkest terror networks. And yet now, unbelievably, this man could soon be walking free. Yes, the parole board weighing up his fate is back at it again. It's been reported he will say he's a changed man. But we've all heard that before, haven't we? Dangerous extremists suddenly claiming redemption the moment they smell freedom. He's been refused parole before, and rightfully so. In my strong opinion, not a single sick, Britain-hating terrorist should ever be released from our prisons. And here's where it gets even more grotesque. The man who Ahmed sued the British state with is none other than our current Attorney General, Lord Hermer. Back in 2020, when in private practice, he tried to wring compensation from our own government on Ahmed's behalf, accusing MI5, the Foreign Office, even Greater Manchester Police of wrongdoing. Well, thankfully, he abysmally failed. But just think about it for a second. The government's chief legal officer today once stood in court on the side of Al-Qaeda's leader in Britain. Just weeks ago, another judge wished Haroon Aswat, another 7/7 linked terrorist, all the best as he prepared to be freed. That's the kind of warped mindset we are dealing with. And in more recent memory, you'll all remember the overturning of the shuttering of the Bell Hotel in Epping.
Therefore, we grant permission to appeal, both to Somani and to the Home Secretary, against the grant of the interim injunction.
Yeah, that was Lord Justice David Bean, who was chairman of the Fabian Society, a prominent socialist think tank affiliated with the Labour Party nonetheless. He also served as the treasurer for the Society of Labour Lawyers. Additionally, he was a founding member of Matrix Chambers, alongside individuals like Cherie Blair and, of course, notably, Lord Hermer, the current Attorney General. Now, we need to work on the basis that these lawyers and judges can operate impartially and independently of any political interests. Lord Hermer would, I'm sure, point to the cab rank rule, which says that barristers must accept the cases they are offered in their areas of expertise to ensure access to justice. But it all feeds into a bigger picture that I think shows a justice system that is, in my opinion, anti-British and ideologically captured, and it can no longer be trusted to put the interests of British people first. And the establishment knows it. That's why the police rushed to cover up a Banksy mural outside the Royal Courts of Justice, showing a judge, of course, using his gavel to attack a protester. They know the truth stings. And it's no surprise to me, YouGov polling shows public confidence in the British judicial system is totally collapsing. Some people no longer believe the courts are on their side at all. And who can blame them? When judges hand down soft words instead of hard justice, when dangerous men like Rangzib Ahmed are even considered for release, the message is clear, isn't it? The system is no longer protecting us, it's protecting them. Right, let's get the thoughts of my superstar panel, Westminster City Councillor for Reform UK, Layla Cunningham, political commentator, Jonathan Liss, and of course, political commentator and GB News star, Will Kingston.
Wait, why is he the star? For obvious reasons.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's how it is. It's how it is. It's how it is, guys. You've got titles. Right, listen. Seeing these sorts of stories, I think the British public have been thinking about the justice system quite a lot lately, when they shouldn't really have to think about it at all. It's legislation, it's law, it should just pass by in the background. But Layla, you know, you've got a background, of course, in law, and it seems to me and to many British people, they feel there's a two-tier system. That's one, there's a two-tier justice system, and that judges are just not acting in their favour. We look at the Bell Hotel, it's one of the best examples I've got recently for you. How do they have any faith that people like these terrorists are going to stay locked up where they should be?
Well, I think it fundamentally comes down as well. We have an Attorney General who defended someone who was part of the worst terrorist attack our country's ever seen. And that can only be, as someone who defends that person and then becomes our Attorney General, it can only be described as a deep fundamental hatred for Britain. And that's what we have. We have an Attorney General who appears to have a deep fundamental hatred for our country. And I think people would agree with it, because terrorist ideology doesn't expire with time. If you're part of mass murder, you don't get mercy. I'm sorry.
How can you possibly say that? That's an outrageous slur to say that he is motivated by a hatred of Britain. You don't. How can you possibly reach inside his heart?
Based off past behaviour.
And you should know.
Based on his involvement in the 7/7 bombing,
you should know. I've got a serious question for you. Do you think that some people who are charged and who are maybe guilty of heinous crimes should not have access to defence? Because that's basically what you are saying.
He sued the government for compensation.
Are you saying that people should not have access to justice and that those people should not be allowed to have solicitors or lawyers, and those lawyers, if they do sort of act on behalf of those people, are sort of somehow associated with them in their views? That's an outrageous thing to say.
The problem is that when you look at Lord Hermer's entire career, he's been involved in so many things that have been in the press in the last 12 months that make it seem like he has anything but contempt for Britain.
And he's chosen
those cases. The Chagos Islands is another example of that. How many more examples do we need to see that this man clearly doesn't love Britain and wants to put Britain first when we see that he was one of the men who was leading on the Chagos
Alex,
stuff?
this is
We need politicians who stop talking about a fair Britain. We need politicians who talk about a strong Britain.
I don't think the two are mutually exclusive.
They are. Well,
I disagree with
it
you.
obviously is under our Attorney General. We need to be a strong nation. Enough about being fair. We need to show
I think we should be unfair then. Look,
I think we should be unfair to people who've committed crimes.
Come on, guys. Here's where I disagree with you three. Because
I haven't even said anything yet.
What I find really dispiriting about the debates I have on this channel, so often when people on the right are talking about the views of people on the left, they don't merely disagree with them, they impugn their entire value judgment. They say that not only do I disagree with you, but because I disagree with you, you must hate Britain. I would never say that to my opponents. I think it's completely outrageous. It's bad faith.
I'd like to get Will involved. I want to clarify. That wasn't what I was suggesting. And there's plenty of people on the left who love Britain. But what I was suggesting is that his track record speaks very ill against him on that particular line of, yes, does this man love Britain? I don't think if I was an Attorney General or anyone, I'd put international law above the rightful ownership of sovereign piece of territory in Britain.
Well, Alex, a lot of people who like Britain also think that one of the reasons they like Britain is that people have access to justice in Britain.
Fair enough. Let's get on Will.
There was a line that Layla said, which has been lost here, which is the critical line, and that is that terrorist ideology does not expire with time.
Agreed.
This goes to a fundamental misunderstanding that the liberal left has with fundamentalist Islam, and that is that they think that all cultures are equal. They take this liberal leftist worldview that says they must think in the way that we think, therefore they're capable of rehabilitation, therefore they'll come out and they'll sing God Save the King. This is not how it works, and this is the reason why we have a particular lens on the Gaza situation, and it's the reason that this scumbag is being let out today. It is because we have an ideologically captured judiciary that believes that somehow this sort of terrorist ideology isn't deeply ingrained in this person's DNA, because they think about it like every other religion, when it is fundamentally different.
He got life with a minimum of 10 years. That's such an insult. 52 innocent people died in seconds.
It's an insult.
And he gets a minimum of 10 years. They don't get a life. They don't get a second chance.
No.
Their memories and their funerals are still fresh in our memory.
He hasn't been released yet, and there's no, when he's released,
shouldn't be even up for discussion.
everyone can appeal for parole. Everyone can apply for parole. It doesn't mean they're going to get it. He's been in jail for 17 years.
Was too
he's allowed to apply for parole. He's not going to get it necessarily.
If you come and you plot, you killed 52 people on their way to work on our soil. And we are discussing here if he should be released after how many years. It should not be up for discussion. Life should be life, especially for someone like that. And that's why we need to get stronger. We need to be a strong Britain. We need to prioritise the love for our country.
I think that's pretty hard to argue with, Jonathan.
In Parliament and in politics need to have.
I'm not saying that I think that he should be released. I don't have access to his case. I don't know what
should he be released?
I don't know, Alex, because I don't know what kind of a threat he poses.
No, that's not the point.
Yes, you do know.
I don't know.
You do.
With his background, with what's happened so far, do you think, given his litany of I mean, just one offence itself is more than enough for me, in my opinion, Jonathan. But do you think a man like that should ever be released from prison?
I think that if you pose any kind of risk to the public, then it's not in the public interest for you to be released. And that's why you have experts, or you experts on the parole board who are able to assess the evidence.
I want to get onto something slightly separate.
Say very quickly, it is not just about a future threat. It is about punishment for a crime that's committed in the past. That crime is worth 1,000 years in jail and not a year shorter.
I think that I'm not saying that there shouldn't be whole life sentences. I think they should be reserved for the most serious.
Are you kidding me?
Well, I don't.
One at a time.
Is 52 innocent people dying in a bomb attack? Is that not
what is worse for you? What is worse for you?
One at a time.
If you actually let me speak, Will, once in a while, that'd be great.
Respond, please.
Look, what exactly? I would obviously. I've never encountered this case before, so I know exactly what his relationship to 7/7 was. Now, obviously, there was a trial, and there was no argument that he should have a whole life sentence in that trial. Presumably, if the case, the sentences was if he was deeply more involved in that, then it should have brought a whole life sentence.
The judiciary. And that is the argument here. Should he have gotten a minimum of 10-year sentence. Because we know a minimum is usually the time you'll serve.
But that's not true, Layla. It was 17 years ago that he was sentenced.
I want to get onto this point about back onto judges here, because I think this is really when it comes to the heart of it. Or we can talk about this person's particular case as much as we like. But we should the British public always be operating under the understanding that judges are impartial? That, of course, someone like Lord Homer's got responsibilities, got this cab rank rule where they have to take it if they've got certain expertise. I'm sure, Layla, you understand that as well. You're in the legal profession. Is there... I mean, you know, there's plenty of people would say we need to change that system, actually, because we do need to make sure that if someone like Lord Homer becomes the Attorney General, they haven't got this politically charged background. Should judges be allowed to be more political and choose what they do in their careers?
Judges will always bring biases to their decisions. It's the reason why the decision about who becomes a Supreme Court judge in the United States is the single biggest thing that happens in any presidential term. That isn't controversial. The problem that we now have in this country is that we've given judges too much scope to actually influence the world in a way which I don't think was the case, say, 20, 30, 40 years ago. This is the reason why something like the ECHR is so problematic, because an activist judge can interpret it in pretty much whatever way that he wants or she wants. That's the real problem. The problem is we've given these people the scope to let their biases run wild.
No, I don't think we haven't given them a scope. It's who are the judges. It's not, we haven't given them anything. They've taken it forcefully.
Oh, well, listen, I want to reiterate here, Lord Homer, as I said in my monologue, Lord Homer would, of course, point to the cab rank rule, which he says that barristers must accept cases that are offered in their areas of expertise to ensure there's access to justice. And, of course, judges can operate impartially and independently of any political interests. Right. We contacted the parole board and they said this. Rangzib Ahmed's case has solely been referred at this stage, meaning he does not have a paper or oral hearing date set. There is no date for his review and there is no certainty of his release. OK, time for our latest Great British giveaway now. And it's our biggest prize today, worth over 104 grand. You could win a 4-berth motorhome worth over 74k plus whopping 30 grand tax-free cash. Here's all the details.
This is your chance to win a motorhome and cash in our biggest giveaway to date. Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be the proud owner of this 2025 Benamar Primero. It comfortably accommodates 4 people, comes with integrated bathroom and kitchen areas, has plenty of storage and can be driven on your standard driving licence. Plus, you'll also bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like, taking the total prize value of this Great British giveaway over a whopping £104,000. Make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Blinds close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. The winner will be contacted live on GB News, week commencing 10th November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
All right, good luck, everybody. Well, you won't want to miss this one, will you? GB News will be covering some astonishing, exclusive stories, speaking to stellar guests and world-class analysis, because immigration is the issue of our time. And don't forget to send your reviews into Farage at gbnews.com and tune in tomorrow at 7 p.m. for a Farage Immigration 2-hour special, only, of course, ever happening here at GB News. Right, coming up, tomorrow's front pages will be with you very shortly, plus...
On women's rights, it's so basic. It's such a basic thing. Women fought for single-sex spaces over 100 years ago, and for over the last 10 years, they were basically dismantled by stealth.
Yeah, bombshell interview, that one with Josh Howie. Graham Linehan, more on that coming up, of course, very soon. And next, for the first time in nearly 3 years, an unescorted migrant boat has landed on a UK beach. That's a boat that's not been towed in by the RNLI and all that. Sparking fresh, of course, pressure on Keir Starmer as channel crossings are just through the roof. We will see you very shortly.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
I thought, well, why not? It's a very ambitious project. But I'm not surprised it's so many years behind schedule, and the sheer cost of it is amazing. But it's a shame it looks like it might not be going ahead, but there are a few countries they can use as a bit of a backup.
Oh, Eddie, we've got some images here of you on the screen. Do you remember these moments here?
Oh, I remember them well. It's nearly 38 years ago, back in Calgary, and I can still remember it like it was yesterday.
Was that the 19... So Eddie, just for the audience to know who you are the first person to represent Great Britain in Olympic ski jumping. That's right. So that was it 1988? Was this your first performance we can see here?
It was. I think it was the small hill, that one, and on the 70 metre, and then a week later I did the 90 metre. So, yeah, I became Britain's first ever Olympic ski jumper. So I still remember it like it was yesterday.
Oh, well, absolutely. Look at those scenes. They're absolutely glorious, Eddie. Love to see it. Well, just go back to our previous topic there for a second. So you know, I'm guessing you have seen some of the facilities around the world. Where seems like a sensible place to have this? Because, of course, we're considering South Korea and other countries as well. Where would you pick this? What would be the best location in your experience, Eddie?
Well, actually, about, I can't remember the year, but at least 10 to 15 years ago, I commentated on the Asian Olympics, and I was commentating when it was in Kazakhstan, in Almaty. Right. So that's another place that they could use for the Asian Olympics. Unfortunately, in the ski jumping event where I was commentating, there were only 12 jumpers taking part. So it was a very, very small competition, but it was great fun. And they do have a ski jump in Kazakhstan, so maybe they can use that as well as a backup.
GB News, the People's Channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country. There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor. Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight with me, Alex Armstrong. Well, all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages will be coming hot off the press, I promise. But first, Border Force has opened an investigation as GB News understands that a group of migrants crossed the Channel unescorted over the weekend, landing on a beach in Kent for the first time in 3 years. That's despite millions of pounds invested to prevent uncontrolled breaches. The Home Office confirmed to Bloomberg that 5 individuals were detained after a small boat landed on a beach in Deal on Saturday evening, evading interception at sea. Well, it's a total embarrassment, isn't it? It's a massive embarrassment for the new Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, on her first day. Almost 1,100 migrants crossed the Channel on Saturday alone. Crossings continued again today as dozens were pulled from the water in a rescue operation, and sadly, of course, as happens far too often, one female migrant lost her life. Well, meanwhile, a French police chief has admitted that his force is too dysfunctional to stop vessels from launching towards the UK, citing a lack of training, shortages of recruits, and claiming that British money, astonishingly, has been spent on the wrong equipment. Well, joining me now is Chairman of Migration Watch, Alp Mehmet. Alp, thank you so much for joining me. Well, British people are just going to be, wondering what on earth is going on. We've given the French almost £500 million. This crisis is just never ending. The boats are getting more and more frequent. Hey, and now we're hearing that the French simply aren't spending the money correctly, and so that's billions of pounds probably gone to waste.
Well, perhaps we should do what Margaret Thatcher did and said, we want our money back. Because clearly it's being wasted. And you said almost $500 million. In fact, it's well over $500 million, Alex. We gave them over $500 million when Rishi Sunak offered something like 400 million not so long ago, over 3 years. We gave them offered 100 million last month, when we were supposed to get a one-in, one-out scheme put in place. It's just a nonsense. And for Mr. Allegre to say that they're not trained and they don't really know what they're doing, well, for goodness sake, they've been at it for over 25 years.
Yeah,
anyone who can cast their mind back to the jungle.
Well, it seems to me that, I mean, many people will say this, and I think this too. The French, of course, don't want to stop the boats. I don't think they've got any incentive to do so, do they?
Well, clearly not. There are so many coming over with alacrity that they can't be doing very much about it. But you started off by saying that for the first time in 3 years they've landed on the beaches. I would suggest that actually it's been going on for a while. It's the first time in 3 years that it's been reported, but I get plenty of anecdotal evidence, locals who say they're arriving on the beaches, they're arriving in the backs of lorries and suddenly being set free and making their way into town. They're arriving in containers. So it's still going on. It's not just those who are coming across in dinghies, in small boats. There's a lot more than that. And this is something that really the government should acknowledge and start doing something serious about it, rather than having deals with the French and anyone else who cares to have a bit of money off us.
Yeah, I mean, it's not looking good for Shabana Mahmood, is it, on her first day? I know that many people on the left were celebrating. It's been 5 days without a boat crossing, whether they realise it's just because of the weather, and that's not exactly a very useful deterrent, is it? Because we can't control it. But it's not good for Shabana Mahmood, is it? It's really not good, because the French government has just collapsed again, and part of that parliament was to pass this new legislation that Macron has supposedly struck with Keir Starmer to get those officers into the water so they can stop these boats from taking off. That looks like it's going to be have cold water poured on it, ironically, unfortunately.
Well, Shabana Mahmood, let's give her a chance. Let's see if she can do any better than her predecessor, who was a huge disappointment, frankly. She started off well by saying that they're going to consider denying visas to those countries that refuse to take back their nationals. Well, I think she should go a lot more than that, and not just those who are here illegally or who've been denied asylum, but anyone who arrives illegally should be returned to their country of origin if we can do that. And we can certainly do that with Pakistan, and we can do it with a number of other countries. That's where I will judge her, whether she's got the guts, actually. And she's got the backing from the Prime Minister. Let's not forget that.
Well, what you're suggesting there, Alp, is correct me if I'm wrong, but perhaps what you're suggesting there is mass deportations, which is what Reform UK have been talking about. The Tories have also been talking about mass deportations. Is there any hope at all of the Labour Party doing anything about this in terms of deporting people that shouldn't be here, rather than keeping them all here and go through an asylum process? The other parties are pledging just to send them all home.
Well, mass deportations, I think you've got to pick that a little. Really, if we were to return everyone, not only those who arrive in boats, but anyone who's here illegally, if we're prepared to deal with them quickly and return them, that would effectively be mass deportations. But we've got to do it properly. You can't. There are something like 1.5 to 2 million people here illegally. Now, I would argue that all those should be rounded up and dealt with, processed. If then it's decided that they don't have any permission to be here and they have no right to be here, then they should be removed. But I think we've got to be a little bit careful about saying things like 600,000 in the course of the next government. Yeah, I hope that if Nigel gets in, if Nigel Farage becomes Prime Minister, that he will push for that. But we've also got to keep our feet on the ground and know that that's going to be a very, very difficult thing to do.
Yeah, well, indeed, Alp, indeed. I don't know who is going to get on top of this crisis, right? I mean, this Alp there from Migration Watch, thank you very much. Of course, Labour would argue they're doing their best. The Home Secretary's brand new into the job. She's going to try and get a grip on it, and they were left messed by the Tories. You make of that what you will, eh? Make of that what you will. Anyway, coming up fresh from the VMAs. Don't know if you can see all those signs there, but there's basically a trans protest there live at the Video Music Awards anyway. So should pop stars get involved in politics? Plus,
I'm very worried. I think that we're moving from, over the last few years, you've seen the police being used more for crowd control than anything else.
Yep, but next, on The Express, every single one of us will be paying a Reeves penalty. This is Patrick Christys tonight with me, Alex Armstrong, only on GB News. See you in a mo.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Looking ahead to tomorrow and across particularly northern parts of Italy, also into Croatia, there will be the return of heavy thundery rain. Also around the Canary Islands, a few showery bursts possible. A bit of rain pushing into the north of Portugal and northwest Spain. Otherwise, a good deal of fine, often sunny weather around. Also across Greece, generally dry, just a few showers to watch out for here. As we go through the rest of the week, away from parts of Italy and Croatia, it is going to be mostly dry and sunny.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. An unsettled day ahead tomorrow, cloudy for many with heavy showers and also spells of rain, particularly in the west. That's where we'll see areas of low pressure starting to move through. This one initially tonight bringing in spells of rain and then followed on behind by another area of low pressure, bringing some wet and windy conditions for Wednesday. Back to this evening, and this area of rain that's been across Wales and southwest England eventually moving its way northeastwards, pushing into central areas of England and parts of the south and southeast. This could be heavy and thundery at times. Also more cloud and showers starting to push in from the west, but with more cloud around that means it's not going to be quite as cool overnight. Many towns and cities dropping to around 11 to 13 degrees Celsius. Wednesday is set to be quite a changeable and mixed day. Once again, heavy showers starting to push into Wales, southwest England, plenty of cloud elsewhere and also a continuation of the showers. Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, once again cloudy, murky with some heavy showers through the first part of the morning. Fairly similar conditions across western and southern parts of Scotland. Towards the far northeast, though, it should remain mostly dry through the early hours, but even eventually here we'll start to see some showers creep through. And we'll see quite a changeable and mixed day, plenty of cloud around, showers which will turn heavy at times with some hail and thunder, with a secondary band of rain which we do just need to keep an eye on as it starts to push its way into Northern Ireland, parts of Wales and southwest England. And it's going to be quite a breezy day, if not quite blustery, particularly around western coasts. Temperatures around about average for the time of year. Heading into Thursday, and there'll be some drier and brighter spells, but once again mixed in with some showers. The bulk of the showers are likely to be towards northwestern parts of Scotland, northern coast of Northern Ireland, so some heavy and blustery downpours expected here. But elsewhere across the country there will be some bright and sunny spells in between. The showers are set to continue for the end of the week into the weekend, with temperatures remaining around average.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Look, I've got all your front page headlines here. Should we get started, shall we? Metro, let's do that first. They're very angry. The Qataris' fury at Israel strike. The Daily Mail, they say, beg your pardon, the eye first. I'll go to the eye first. Trump rebukes Israel for strikes targeting Hamas leaders in Qatar. And then on to the Mail. They're leading with this here. Mandelson on rag over best pal Epstein. You see a little picture of him there in a robe, I believe, having a little smile there with old Epstein. The Daily Express. Every single one of us will be paying a Reeves penalty. That's Kemi Badenoch there. That's the first time I've seen she actually got a headline. There we go. That's a win for Kemi today.
And she gets occasionally in the Express, but no one reads that.
OK, fair enough.
Good point, actually, yeah.
The Guardian. Israel launches attack on Hamas chiefs in Qatar for ceasefire talks. We're not going to talk about this because it's on almost everyone, isn't it? The Sun. They are leading on this. Sacked Wallace sues BBC. It's a real headache for the BBC at the moment, isn't it? It's not looking good for them. I think we have to start with the Qatar attacks, don't we? Because it's on most of these headlines here. Layla, we'll start with the Metro, shall we? They're leading on Qatar fury at Israel strike, and a few others are as well, of course. I mean, you know, there's going to be criticisms on both sides. Some will say, actually, we're taking out a terrorist organisation and good that we're doing that. Some will say there was a ceasefire discussion going on and perhaps this is just an overextension of Israeli force. What do you make of it all?
I think it could be seen as a violation of sovereignty. I think even Trump came out of it. There are very fragile peace talks right now. And I think any attack on sovereignty in Qatar, who is part of that peace talk, is part of those peace talks, could be seen as an aggressive move.
Yeah. Well, it is an aggressive move. That's why it could be seen as a...
Go on, Jonathan, what do you
make?
Well,
look, this is a total outrage. Israel has abandoned all pretense following international law. If you are interested in negotiating a ceasefire or peace, you don't try to take out the negotiators. But here's the thing. Israel is not interested in peace. Israel is interested in ethnically cleansing Gaza. And we only need to listen to what the Israeli leaders are saying to know that. Now, the gravest threat to regional peace and stability is actually worse than Iran, worse than Qatar, worse than any of these countries, is the country that is bombing, 6 of its neighbours in the last year? That is Israel. It is acting like a rogue state and needs to be treated like one.
I note that's the second time in half an hour that Jonathan sided with terrorists on this show. If you make it a third, you'll get a hat-trick.
You're siding with genocidaires. I'll sleep soundly tonight, Will. I know maybe you won't be.
All right, I'm not going to speak over you. Look, FAFO, Alex, if you are going to house terrorists, as Qatar has done for many years now, there are consequences for that. It's as simple as that. I think the time for international law, sovereignty, all those sorts of conversations take a back seat to if you decide to willingly house terrorists.
Yeah, Layla, just Trump's remarks, I'll read them out for the audience sake. Obviously, I'm sure you always want to hear what Trump has said here, because he says Trump contradicts claim US was warned in advance, so it doesn't look like he knew what was going on. He says, while eliminating Hamas is a worthy goal, he assures ally Qatar that such an attack will not happen again. Layla, can even the President of the United States guarantee things like this won't happen? Well, it seems like they weren't told.
Also, I did note that Israel said it was a targeted attack.
Yes, five of the members.
But I think Hamas said that their leaders got out safely.
Interesting.
So, are we to expect another attack? I think the peace talk should be the way forward, and I do admire Trump for trying to push it forward, and I don't think this kind of attack helps that. Especially if you don't bring the US in, who's trying to help you.
Of course it doesn't. Of course it doesn't help it when you literally bomb another country over whom you have no jurisdiction whatsoever. You completely break international law. How would we respond if a country were to sort of send bombs or drone strikes on London to take out what they thought were sort of terrorist suspects or whatever? It's not about abetting terrorism or supporting or defending terrorists. Well, I know that you'll say anything to get attention. It's not about that. It's actually to say that there is such things in international law and it has to be followed. And Qatar, which is bending over backwards to please Trump, by the way, literally giving him a 747 jet, gets this in return. That is not actually advancing, as Caroline Levitt, of all people, said. Trump's spokesperson is not advancing either Israel's interests or America's.
And I can hear the collective sigh of the audience at the end of that monologue, even though we are in a one-way television situation. Look, what we have seen without any sort of doubt is that you can't do peace negotiations with radical terrorists. That is the reality. This is not going to stop until all of the fire is put out, not 3/5 of the fire. The peace negotiations have continued for a long period of time because Hamas refused to be reasonable. I say don't stop until every single last terrorist...
Israel should just bomb whoever it likes in whatever country it likes.
Every terrorist, yes.
I want to move on because I know people watch and go, what does it matter to me? I'm here in the UK, I don't care. A lot of people just don't care anymore because this war it's clearly not, it's just going to keep on going, isn't it? I mean, let's face it, at the end of the day, I think most people just go, right, leave them to it. The Daily Express, though, talking of things more close to home, Kemi Badenoch, first time I think she's had a headline for a while, here we go. Every single one of us will be paying a Reeves penalty. Rachel Reeves will tax anything she can lay her hands on, Kemi Badenoch has warned. Tory leader accused the Chancellor of driving Britain into bankruptcy, racking up debts. But they've also taken a name at your party, Layla. They said that you're on the left. They said they're the only centre-right party in the country. Do you agree with her?
It's not even about centre-right or centre-left. It's just the level of hypocrisy is so galling. I mean, they racked up level amounts of debt. They gave us the highest taxation since World War II. And what did we see for it? Absolutely nothing. You know, when we had 0% interest rates, they should have borrowed to invest and build infrastructure. They didn't.
Briefly, Will?
Can't argue with anything that Layla has said. They obviously need some sort of a lane because they're being flanked on the right by reform. They see economic and fiscal responsibility as being that lane. Whether or not people buy it remains to be seen, given the hypocrisy argument.
They have absolutely no credibility.
Yeah, Jonathan?
I don't know why we're even bothering to talk about Kemi Badenoch. She's not going to be in the job in 2 years' time, maybe even less than that.
Yeah, there we have it, eh? Resounding support for Kemi Badenoch on the panel. I mean, look, she'd obviously say that she's doing the best with the bad job and she's just had to suffer the worst.
Bad job that she did herself.
All right,
She was in cabinet.
All right. Anyway, look, because I want to move on. The London Underground driver I showed you earlier, they've been sacked. They were filmed doing this. Have a look.
Life of a train driver. Knitting, watching TV, press a couple buttons, 40 bags a year, go on strike whenever he wants.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of an old video, but I think it makes the point that I want to make to all of you, which is that actually these drivers are pointless. I mean, most of the tube is automated. They're now demanding that they have, what, a 3-day working week. They've got 43 days of holiday plus bank holidays. They earn about 80, 90 grand a year with overtime. They have gold-plated pensions. Now they're asking for Legoland tickets. Will, the city's ground to a halt. It's just a disaster.
Well, you know, the funny thing is, people are pretty uncomfortable with AI and the robots taking our jobs. If they didn't annoy the whole of London, they would have had much more sympathy. The one dead set kind of certainty is that they have now made some sort of automation on the tube far more likely and occur far more quickly, and they've shot themselves in the foot.
I don't think that's true, to be honest. I mean, the level of investment that would require is not. We're not exactly rolling in money.
Well, actually, most of the new trains are prepared for automation, but yeah.
It's not true because the amount of money we lose every time they strike is huge.
Well, they haven't struck for 2 years, to be fair.
No, this is the second strike this year. And the amount we pay them up to 100 grand a year. And automation should be phased in bit by bit. They did it in Copenhagen. It's extremely successful. And the thing is, what people don't realise, they're striking for 32-hour weeks, when right now they have 38 to 40.
Well,
Everyone has that.
This is it. Like,
and they want more money for
They
less.
do. And like, I'm a born and bred Londoner, and I'm sick to death of it, honestly, I really am. Anyway, this video was made earlier in the year, of course. This is a response from TfL, I believe. We carried out a full investigation, and the person involved no longer works at TfL. Well, there you go. Great stuff. That's all about solved, isn't it? There we go.
The drivers maybe not needed.
Coming up, Trump condemns Israeli strike on Qatar. And there's still time to be part of the audience this Friday.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christys Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christys Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Britain's Newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
Good morning, Graham. What's your view on the latest comments about the gender of the next James Bond? Should there be one?
Well, there obviously should be a James Bond, but it should never be a woman. I think this is something that was in the media and the press some years ago that's kind of been dragged up to a degree. It's a nonsense. It was a nonsense when it was first spoken about some years ago, and it's just as big a nonsense now. It needs to be a 6 foot tall, dark-haired, strapping, middle-aged guy. I say middle, I mean talking about 32.
Yeah, Graham, like,
32 is quite young in my book.
Well, but I mean, look, Graham, what I say is that a lot of these. I mean, I know Amazon, I believe, have bought the rights to James Bond now. I mean, you've seen what they've done with some of their other shows. I'm not so convinced they're not going to go down this super woke, what I would call woke route. Is it? Do they really need to reinvent James Bond though? Because you've had so many iterations of him. They pretty much killed him off in the last movie. Do we need to reinvent the idea of James Bond, or should James Bond just retire? Should we say, actually, do you know what? We've had James Bond for almost 100 years. Actually, should we let this character rest for at least a bit of time, or maybe just retire the character before it gets destroyed by modern reinventions of it?
Well, I think there's always going to be a market. There's always going to be an audience for James Bond if those films are made the correct way. I mean, you've got a perfect blueprint. If you look at the Bond films in the 60s, and you follow that as a blueprint, you can't go wrong, because most of them are based on Ian Fleming, and it's the best Bond films are the ones that are based on Fleming's books quite closely.
GB News, the People's Channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there.
Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand. Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight on the
unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace to Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
All right, everybody. Well, look, let's get your last 2 headlines here. Let's go for the Telegraph first. The Telegraph is saying this: Trump condemns Israeli airstrike on Qatar. And, of course, they've got that picture there of Mandelson and Epstein, the one we saw earlier. There's little notes there. I can't quite read that yet, but we will. The Times, they are leading on this. Israel risks Trump's wrath by hitting Hamas in Qatar. Now, I want to start on this one because it's a really funny, smaller story out the top there. If you can see that on your screens at home, Rachel Reeves is saying to her cabinet, we must live within our means. I mean, honestly. I mean, are you joking, Rachel? You figured this out now? After you've got this £50 billion black hole and the rest of the country's bankrupt? Will, what do you make of Rachel Reeves coming to the conclusion we should live within our means?
Yeah, what's the chick with 10 maxed out credit cards who's suddenly saying that you need to be fiscally responsible? Look, it's the right thing to say. There's no two ways about that. But the problem is she's saying it to a bunch of far-left loonies who have resisted any single spending cut that she has tried to put forward. And even those have been very moderate. So, right rhetoric, but unfortunately the audience she's saying it to is not going to be responsive.
What do you think, Layla?
Hang on, didn't she award above inflation wage increases to public sector?
Yeah, I believe so. It was I can't remember how big it was, but it was pretty high. It was pretty high.
We have a public sector that's underperforming and overpaid.
And there was no...
Well, they were on strike. They were on strike for 2 years before that, so they were to end the strikes.
Yeah, but how's that going?
Well, there's one strike.
There'll be more.
That's called blackmail.
In the public sector, we can't strike if we want more money, but the private sector just hold us to ransom all the time. Oh, they strike, so we give them more money.
Well, people in the public sector
that is not a way to run a country because it's taxpayers who pay for that.
Yeah, I just think there's an irony, isn't there? When Rachel Reeves is the one telling her cabinet she's got to live within her means, and he's been bombing the country.
But linked to that is a story in one of the papers about the CBI saying that she should scrap the pledge not to increase national insurance or income tax. That was a massive original sin blunder, which they're going to have to look at.
I think they're going to have to raise taxes on all of us.
But why do we always talk about raising taxes and not cutting cutting costs.
I know. It's because the
we
Labour
never
Party can't
ever
cut.
talk about cutting costs.
They are talking about it. They are talking about it. Of course they are.
No, they're not.
No, they're not.
They tried to cut costs, the welfare bill, and we ended up with more.
Right. Just because we haven't got a lot of time left, I want to talk about this Mandelson story because Jonathan was really, really excited to talk about this one. You saw Mandelson in a row.
I think I think it's an important story because you obviously have this huge blow up in America right now. The Democrats have released the birthday card that Donald Trump wrote Jeffrey Epstein in 2003, which, well, they say, the Democrats say that he wrote it. I wasn't there at the time, so I don't know. But obviously Trump is suing the Wall Street Journal because for saying that he wrote this card, and the Democrats have produced evidence of that. And now you have Peter Mandelson, who also wrote a birthday card for the same birthday. He called Epstein his best pal, and people are saying, is that sustainable for him to remain the ambassador to the US? What I would say is, if it's not sustainable for him to remain the ambassador to the US, it's probably not sustainable for Trump to remain president.
No, that's wrong. That's stupid. That is stupid.
Briefly.
That's stupid because Trump was elected by the American people and Mandelson was chosen by the British government. Now, obviously, it was a stupid decision because A, it calls into question their judgment, and B, it's generally a good thing for an ambassador to be liked by the people he is trying to do diplomacy with.
But also, what does it say about Labour's... So he was called Petey, right? So we've sent Bathrobe Petey to represent us in the USA. What does that say about Labour's judgments?
I totally agree. I'm not a big fan of Epstein nor Peter Mandelson, so there we go. Anyway,
I'm glad to hear you're not a big fan of Epstein, mate.
Don't go anywhere.
Will you stand up for your wife? Will you stand up for your mum and for your daughter and your sister? Will you stand up for them?
Oh, hang on. There we go. I can't control this panel tonight. So anyway, that's part 2 of the bombshell exclusive interview with Graham Linehan. It's coming up. Before that, let's get to the weather, shall we?
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. An unsettled day ahead tomorrow, cloudy for many with heavy showers and also spells of rain, particularly in the west. That's where we'll see areas of low pressure starting to move through. This one initially tonight bringing in spells of rain and then followed on behind by another area of low pressure, bringing some wet and windy conditions for Wednesday. Back to this evening, and this area of rain that's been across Wales and southwest England eventually moving its way northeastwards, pushing into central areas of England and parts of the south and southeast. This could be heavy and thundery at times. Also more cloud and showers starting to push in from the west, but with more cloud around that means it's not going to be quite as cool overnight. Many towns and cities dropping to around 11 to 13 degrees Celsius. Wednesday is set to be quite a changeable and mixed day. Once again, heavy showers starting to push into Wales, southwest England, plenty of cloud elsewhere and also a continuation of the showers. Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, once again cloudy, murky with some heavy showers through the first part of the morning. Fairly similar conditions across western and southern parts of Scotland. Towards the far northeast, though, it should remain mostly dry through the early hours, but even eventually here we'll start to see some showers creep through. And we'll see quite a changeable and mixed day, plenty of cloud around, showers which will turn heavy at times with some hail and thunder, with a secondary band of rain which we do just need to keep an eye on as it starts to push its way into Northern Ireland, parts of Wales and southwest England. And it's going to be quite a breezy day, if not quite blustery, particularly around western coasts. Temperatures around about average for the time of year. Heading into Thursday, and there'll be some drier and brighter spells, but once again mixed in with some showers. The bulk of the showers are likely to be towards northwestern parts of Scotland, northern coast of Northern Ireland, so some heavy and blustery downpours expected here. But elsewhere across the country, there will be some bright and sunny spells in between. The showers are set to continue for the end of the week into the weekend, with temperatures remaining around average.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
Right, well, a massive hour of newspaper headlines for you. Is Israel in trouble with Big Daddy Trump? Is it all going to blow up over that massive airstrike by Qatar, should I say, by the Israelis? We've also got Peter Mandelson on the ropes over his connections to Epstein. We'll be digging into that. Kemi Badenoch's made a headline too. How about that, eh? We'll see you very, very shortly.
You could bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. This brand new 2025 Benimar Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on